Hey, good day, folks. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. I hope everybody had a good holiday. I cannot complain other than I'm just a little tired. Well, first of all, let me tell you what communities I'm going to be jobbing through on this video. Basically, what you guys are looking at is footage off of, uh, well, most of it's going to be off of Alabama 10. I mean, because on my way into Georgia, I was driving through Southeast Alabama on my way into Southwest Georgia. And the communities you guys are going to see, you're going to see Blue Springs, Abbeville, and Sorter. And you're going to even see some of Fort Gaines, Georgia. Not too much, but just some. So I just wanted to let you guys know real quick what you're going to see. Now I thought I would give you guys just, on this channel, without getting too personal with you guys, I want to be transparent. I want to be a little bit more transparent on this channel when it comes to certain aspects of my life. Because I think some of the things I think and say will help out somebody. Even if it only helps out one person. I'm cool with that. And obviously the more people I help out, the better I do on my channel. But you guys get the idea. And I figure rather than me doing a sit down video to where all you see is my face, I thought while I was talking you guys can enjoy a little bit of scenery. So I would like to start by giving you guys a brief update on what's going on with my job currently. Now, yes, I am still currently at my employer here in Alabama. And, things have gotten a little better. Just a little. Now, some of the issues I was having with certain employees, we shook hands on it and, all that is squashed. We're not having issues no more. But to be quite frank, do I like the work I do? Do I like the job? No. I mean, for starters, I don't care for the hours because I prefer to work afternoons, not mornings. And secondly, I know for some of you that, you guys probably could care less, but for me, it's a big deal, kind of, sort of. But where I work, we have to walk up 2 flights of stairs to get to our break room. And like I told you guys, I got a bad ankle. And also, without getting into too much detail about my job, there's certain policies that we have to follow, and I don't really care for some of them. And also, and this is something that unless you've been in this situation, you're not going to quite understand where I come from. But for those of you that have been watching me for the last year or two, there was a time that I was not working a regular 9 to 5. I was doing a mixture of YouTube and gig work. And every so often I might pick up some side jobs outside from people that I might run into and communicate with to earn a little bit of money, so I can pay bills and do what I gotta do for the sake of this channel in terms of my traveling the country. And I gotta say, even though I did not make a lot of money during that time, even though I spent a crap load of money on my travels because I was trying to build this channel, do gotta say, last year was one of the best times of my life, looking back. And I say that because I didn't have to worry about going to a quote unquote 9 to 5. Whenever I woke up, ate breakfast, went to the gym back before I started slacking off. But whenever I got up, I can go to work anytime I wanted. Like a lot of times when I did DoorDash, for an example, I wouldn't start dashing until afternoon. And a lot of times, whenever I go and do YouTube videos, whenever I'm traveling around, typically I would start recording around 9 o'clock in the morning. And when it starts getting dusk, I would stop recording. So basically, I was able to make up my own schedule, and I was able to live life more so on my own terms, which I enjoyed. And last year, I was able to take trips across the country. I was able to drive up to North and South Dakota, and I was out there for over a month. And there was a time back in 2020, back when you only had certain areas that were not under lockdown that you were able to go to and have a good time. And I remember during 2020, I had a 1996 Plymouth Voyager. And again, at that, I would say it was the fall. It was late fall in 2020. I've decided to leave my factory job at the time. The pay was good. But I got to the point where I didn't really care. Why didn't I care? Because kind of like what I'm going through now. Of course, with this other job I used to have, it was a little worse. But I remember I was working at this factory in Indiana, because back then I lived in Indiana. And I would come home every day. And my feet, my feet were so badly swollen and sore that I could barely walk. Like, when it came to getting up out of my car and going into my house, I walked like I was 85 years old. There's people that are in their 80s that would have walked better than I walked during that time. Like, as soon as I took off my work boots and looked at my feet, both of my feet, 'cause I got 6 plates in one foot, and then the other foot, I think it began to bother me because I tend to use it. I'm hard on it because I tend to baby the other foot that I got 6 plates in. So anyhow, it got to the point where I was walking like I was 85 years old whenever I got off of work. Because we used to work 10 hours a day at this particular job. It was a 10-hour shift, 5 days a week. Sometimes it'd be 6 days a week when we got busy. So when I got home, my feet were my ankles mainly were swollen up. So I would get inside, take my boots off, and I would immediately sit down in my computer chair because I just couldn't walk. It was too painful to walk. And then a lot of times I would fall asleep in the chair, and then maybe I might get up about an hour or two later, get up, and I would get up and walk to the restroom, use the restroom, and then I'll finally jump in bed. But then when I got up the next morning, because typically when I got into bed, I got like 6 to 7 hours of sleep, and then I get up. So whenever I get up, whether it be get up for the day or getting up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, again, I would get up barely able to walk. I mean, there were a couple of times that it got so bad that I had to go to bed with a cane. Like, I took a cane and I put it right by my bed. That's how bad it got. So, after a while, I've had this job for, I think I've had that job for a good couple of years, give or take. So, I got fed up. And it's like, you know what? At that time, my house that I was living in was paid off. I managed to accumulate a significant amount of money in savings because I was working this job 10 hours a day, and during this time I was still donating plasma. So I was able to save up a substantial amount of money. So I sat down and I was like, you know what? I'm sick of this job. I'm sick of not being able to walk. And plus, I want to travel a little bit. So I put my 2 weeks in. I quit the job. And that was the time that I decided to live out of my van down in Montgomery, Alabama. Now, while I was down in Alabama, I started this channel in Alabama. My very first, if you go back on my channel and you go back to my very first video, my very first video was actually, I believe I was sitting in a hotel parking lot in Montgomery, Alabama. But this channel actually started in Alabama. And initially I meant to make this channel more so a Nomad channel, but I just didn't have the content necessary to make it a Nomad channel, at least not one that people would be interested in watching. Which is why I decided to just do what I do now. I drive around to different communities and give you guys some info about the community. And when I started doing that, that's when my channel began to grow. But anyways, so while I was down in Alabama, I got to thinking, you know what? Florida's right next door. And then I looked up on my phone to see how far it would be from Montgomery to the Florida Keys. It was 13 hours. So I was like, okay, you know what? I can do that. So I took off, and when I went to Montgomery, Alabama, I did have a job there. It was I did have a job there. It was temporary. I didn't keep it for real long because I didn't care for the job. And again, my feet started bothering me real bad, so I quit. But however, I was able to save up a little bit of money to where I was able to travel to the Florida Keys. So I quit the job and I took off the next day to the Florida Keys, if I can remember correctly. So I went to the Florida Keys. I was down in the Keys for, I want to say, about a week. I was there for the Thanksgiving week. And looking back at that trip, I had a lot of fun. I was happy. I had fun. Now remind you, I took the trip to the Florida Keys from Montgomery, Alabama on less than $1,000. And without getting, on less than $1,000 from Montgomery to the Florida Keys. And off of that money, I was able to even make it back to Indiana. Now, during this time, I had a 1996 Plymouth Voyager. Now, my van at that time was pretty much on its last legs, because there were 2 times during the trip from Montgomery to the Florida Keys to where my van stalled out. I mean, my engine overheated twice. Now, there's another time my van overheated, and it overheated somewhere in Montgomery. I think I was on the south side of Montgomery when my engine overheated. Now, people there were real nice. There were all kind of people coming up to me, hey man, you need some help, can I do something for you? And there wasn't anything they could do for me, because I knew the drill. It was like, if my van overheat, I just put the hood up, let it sit for maybe 15 minutes, give or take, let it cool down, and then I keep it moving. But despite the issues I had with that van, I still enjoyed myself in Alabama and in the Florida Keys. Now, of course, I did not go out to eat at any super expensive restaurant. In fact, I ate the majority of my meals. I mean, what I did was, I had a cooler at that time, and I just had a little bit of ice, and I put some food in it, and that's how I ate. Like, if I wanted something to eat and I didn't already have it in the cooler, I just went to the closest grocery store, bought what I wanted, and ate it. I didn't go out to eat a lot, because that would have been a big budget killer. I did not get now there were some times to where I did get hotels in Montgomery, but definitely when I went down to the Keys, I did not get a hotel. I was not able to afford it. I spent the whole time down there camping out of my van. So that was my first time doing the whole nomad life and not having any kind of commitments to a regular 9 to 5. Now, my very, very first time staying in a van for an extended period of time was really back in 2018, when I took my trip from Indiana to North Dakota. And that was during the oil boom. And that was a trip to where I went to North Dakota and I came back home with a job in the oil field. So I worked in the oil field for a little over a year. And I mean, it wasn't long that I was out there, but I was able to save up a crap load of money. And that money I was able to save up and change the rest of my life. I mean, and the money I was able to save up out there was enough for me to get completely out of debt. And it was also enough to buy me a second house. So, what was I going to say? So that was really, 2018 was really the first time that I took a trip across country and stayed in the van the whole time. Now during that time, I was on the road for a week. So I say all this just to say that, if you're like me, once you've had that taste of traveling the country and seeing different things, meeting different people, experiencing different cultures, different different parts of the country and so on and so forth. Once you've had that experience of actually being able to live on your own terms and not having to worry about working a 9 to 5, I mean, once you've gotten a taste of how that's like, if you're like me, it's hard to go back to a 9 to 5 and to actually like it. It's hard. It's difficult. And ever since I went back to a 9 to 5, I want to say about 7 months ago or so, it's been hard. It's been difficult. Now, I will say, my last job that I had, if I was able to take that job and bring it down here to Alabama, that would have been a great thing. But unfortunately, that ain't how it worked. But even with that job, it was hard for me because, every time I look up, I'm thinking about, man, I'm trying to hop in my van and go somewhere across the country. I'm trying, like during when I was up in Indiana during the winter, I'm thinking, I'm trying to go to Arizona. I'm trying to go to Arizona out in the desert. Maybe I might run into some of the nomads that got larger YouTube channels or whatever. I don't know. We can have a collaboration or something. I was thinking stuff like that. I was thinking, man, if I didn't have to work this job, if I was still, doing gig working and stuff, I could have took a trip to the Florida Keys again. But the reason why I went back to a 9 to 5 is because we got this recession that's around we're already in a recession, but the recession is only going to get worse as time progresses, at least for now. So I wanted to at least have a 9 to 5. And another reason why was, like I told you guys before, a lot of these gig jobs were jerking their drivers around, and drivers weren't making no kind of money. And another reason why I went back to a 9 to 5 was because when I first started my other job in Indiana, I still had my other house. Now, for those of you that have been watching me recently, you know that I recently sold my other house in Indiana. So the only house I have is the one I live here in Alabama. So, due to those reasons, those are the reasons why I chose to go back to a 9 to 5. So, let's see here. Alright, folks, I had to get up and take care of some business real quick. So yeah, like I was saying, once you've had a taste of how it is to truly live your life, to truly have control over your life, it's hard to go back to a 9 to 5 routine. At least for me it is. Now for some of you, it may not be any big deal. Maybe the way that I was living before, for some of you, it ain't for you. It ain't what you want to do. But for me, once you had a taste of that kind of life, it's hard to go back to a 9 to 5. Like the job I'm working right now, like I told you guys, I don't like where I work. I don't like where I work. I just don't like it. Even though I no longer have the issues I've had when I first mentioned my new job with some of the co-workers, we don't have those issues no more. However, as far as it goes for the job and just I'll just say the general work environment, I'm still not crazy about it. So for all the reasons that I've explained earlier in this video about why I don't like my job, I find myself contemplating quitting my job. Now, now that I sold my house, now that I no longer have those extra set of utility bills, and without getting too much into my money, I have a little bit of a savings. And I was contemplating on quitting my job and focusing more on this channel, and just for additional income, just going back to doing a little bit of gig work. Because I got to thinking, okay, I know the gig economy is a mess right now because you got a lot of these apps that are screwing their drivers over. I get it, I got it, I know it. But I don't know. I mean, when I look at the 9 to 5 life, I'm not crazy about that life either. And I feel for the work that we do at my job, we ought to get paid way better than what we make. Oh, and just before I forget, you guys will see some footage starting right now of some of the. Well, in a minute here, you guys will see a little bit of footage of some of the better neighborhoods of Albany, Georgia. So anyhow, like I was saying, I mean, at this point, I'm contemplating on quitting my job. I mean, now that I got my house sold, I'm seriously contemplating on quitting. Now, I did look at other jobs, and unfortunately, if I take the type of work that I desire to do, that would actually be easier on my feet, and also jobs that are located a tad bit closer to my residence, and positions that will have a second shift to where I don't gotta get up with the roosters. I mean, the pay would be considerably lower than what I'm currently making, but I'm to the point where I kind of don't care. And I figure to make up for the difference, I figure I can go out maybe a couple of times a week during the evening and do a little bit of door dashing to make up for that difference. Now, another thing I was considering is buying me a bigger van, like a full-size van, and building it out, and just spending more time traveling the country, and then just go somewhere and take a regular 9 to 5 job, work it for maybe a few months, and then when I get ready to leave that general area, I leave the job. Wherever I go next, I take a job out there, work for a few months, and keep it pushing. I thought about doing that. And yes, I did check in. Now, there was a time that I did consider downsizing my housing situation. I talked about this briefly on this channel, but I'm going to talk about it again. Now, I did consider downsizing my housing situation, but when I sat down and crunched all the numbers together, downsizing did not make any sense to me. The math was not mathing, as they say these days. The little bit of money that I would save by downsizing my housing situation would not be near enough to make it worth my while to downsize. And even when I looked into just buying a piece of land and just kind of doing the whole build my own type of situation, the off-grid type of life, I'm gonna be honest. For one, I'm not living off-grid. It's just not anything that I want to do. And secondly, by the time you factor in the cost of getting everything set up right to where you're in compliance with the county codes and all that type of stuff, it would actually cost me more to live off grid than living the way I'm living right now, which, right now I have about an acre of land. My house is over 1,500 square feet, and I have regular plumbing and electric and all that good stuff. And my utility bills are not that high. So the amount of time that it would take for me to offset the expense of installing a solar system compared to what I pay per month on electric, I mean, to me, again, the math ain't math and it makes no sense. So to me, the way I'm living right now here in Alabama is going to be about the cheapest I'm going to get when it comes to my housing situation. Now, granted, I can get it a little bit cheaper. I mean, I guess if I wanted to, I can buy a smaller house with a smaller yard. But again, like I told you, when I look at the housing prices, by the time I factor in closing costs, realtor fees, and potential home repairs for my new home, moving expenses, again, the little bit of money that I would get back wouldn't be worth it. So my best bet is to stay where I'm at, keep what I have. I mean, I like where I'm at, and I like what I have. I love my house. I love my neighborhood. I love my lot. So I'm going to keep it. Because, I was thinking for a second, well, maybe if I downsize, I can get out here and do what I want to do. But then, like I said a second ago, when I crunch the numbers, I might as well just keep what I have. And if I want to do my thing, I'm going to keep what I have and do my thing. You know? So, yeah, I mean, and again, this is not written in gold, but I am seriously thinking about leaving my job, folks. Yes, again, I'm thinking about leaving my job. Now, for those of you that want to get out here and you want to live like what I'm describing, my suggestion is, have a paid off house. B, have a healthy amount of money set aside in your savings. I'm not going to sit here and tell you how much you should have. It all depends on how you want to live your life. You got to use your common sense on that one. You might want to sit down and talk to a licensed financial advisor on that one. I'm not going to tell you how much and all that type of stuff. And I say that you should have a paid off house because, now for those of you that are younger and you want to live like this and you don't own a house, I would say, and all you're doing is paying rent, I would say whenever your lease is up, just, don't rent no more. Just take some money, go buy you a van, build it out, and get out here and enjoy life. And just bear in mind that at some point you might want to settle down, you might want to be a homeowner. So with that being said, don't go out here and blow money on dumb shit. And when it comes to work, try to earn enough money to where not only can you fund your travels on the road, but you can also set a substantial amount of money aside for whenever you might want to buy yourself a house later down the line or something, or even a piece of land or something of that nature. And another reason, and other than the fact that I prefer to get back on the road and travel and just work jobs as I go along, another reason why I want to quit my job is because, not to sound like a crybaby, but this job does take a lot out of me. I get up at, 4 o'clock in the morning just so I can get ready and get to work on time because it's an hour to get to work, an hour to get back home. But, I would say about every day when I get off of work, my feet hurt. And typically they're swollen up a little bit. Not as bad as what they were back when I had my old job that I talked about earlier in this video. But I noticed with this job, again, I'm on concrete all day. My feet are swollen when I get off for work. They hurt. A lot of times I wake up and they might hurt. And I don't really like taking a whole lot of ibuprofen because that's not good for the body to take that many ibuprofens. So that's another reason why I want to quit my job, because I'm sick and tired of my feet always hurting, and I'm tired of my ankles always being swelled up. So yeah. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much what my thoughts are. And of course, any updates that come up, I will be doing another video similar to this. Or maybe it might just be my regular sit down and talk video where you get to see my face. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the scenery here. And if you like what I do, give videos like this a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so yet, you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel. But I look forward to getting back out here on the road and giving you guys more content. I look forward to possibly meeting other people that might be out here living their life as nomads, whether it be full-time or part-time. Don't matter, don't make a difference. The important thing is you're enjoying life. That's the important thing, is that you're enjoying your life and you're happy and you're healthy. Alright folks, I'm getting close to the end here. I got like maybe a minute, so I'm gonna holler at you all later. Stay blessed.